Okay. So hello, everyone. Welcome to today's interview focused on smart and sustainable property developments. Pleasure and very grateful to have the experts joining us today. David Hunt from Architar, Bob Sharon from Blue IoT, and also Peter Scott from PDSI Group, seasoned veteran in smart and sustainable property development and agriculture projects. We've also got Dennis and Anastasia from DNA Pathways, partners in Unified Purpose, for the big grand plan that we have with more collaborative masterminds, and today is sort of the starting point. We have had some previous materials you may have seen, and these experts will be joining continuous content moving forward. So we really hope that you enjoy the materials that we produce and get value from this, and feel free to reach out to our experts to utilise their amazing services and technologies. So today we'll have some backwards and forwards discussions. Myself, I've got some questions I'll be asking, and the experts will ask questions together as well. And this is all about working out answers together so we can get the result that we're after, to start working a lot smarter in the ways we're developing property, and how our consumption, our manufacturing and production of property developments can actually work a bit better in terms of the way that we're affecting our environment and what have you. So without further ado, we're going to start with David Hunt from Architar. He's going to showcase this amazing technology designed to help, first of all, find the right development sites, and then work out exactly what can be done on those development sites. We're looking forward to introducing the Architar technology to any builder or anyone in construction, because it's a fantastic technology to help you optimize your developments. We'll be using it ourselves. And without further ado, I'd like you to sort of introduce probably a bit more clearer what you're doing, David, and showcase your amazing technology, please.
Thanks very much, Dan. I'm just going to open up with a bit of a slide deck here. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that. So just to tell you a little bit about Architar. So we're a property and architectural technology company founded by Dr. Ben Curry. And Ben is the CEO of Architar, and Ben has a PhD in parametric architectural design. What does that mean? It means bringing buildings up out of the ground digitally using algorithms and geometry. So Ben was an academic, teaching architects to be architects for many years, and then the goal was to then commercialize his knowledge in creating world first parametric design generators, which was the reason why we built the property platform in the first place. By way of introduction, myself, I'm the former executive national sales manager of a company called Cordell Information. I was there for many years, and then went on to be a senior manager at CoreLogic, which owns products like RP Data, which I'm sure you've heard of. And then I came into Architar a couple of years ago to commercialize the property platform with Dr. Ben Curry and co-founder his brother Rob Curry. So just to put it in context, so if we talk about the how we first started, like 3 years ago in 2017, Architar hosted an event called Digital Design 2020 and did a really big national tour across all capital cities, and hundreds of people came to each event, and we predicted future designs. So essentially 3 years ago, we said we'd be able to generate designs. So you could go to a map of Australia anywhere around the world, and you'd be able to click on a lot and type in your parameters around what you wanted to do, and from there work out what you can build on there, do an instant feasibility, get some sunlight analysis, cross ventilation analysis, and then a building design comes up, and all in the space of a few seconds, without the need for a program or anything like that. And it's quite phenomenal. We could get this to happen in just a few short years. And about 18 months ago, we launched we launched the platform and did an MVP offering to top developers, architects, real estate agents. And today I'm going to show you the platform and where it's at today. Um, and it's actually quite amazing. As I said, it's a culmination of 3 years work. So when we first started out, we originally thought we were building design software. And when people started using the platform, they said, well, we don't know the we don't know what the planning regulations are. We have to look them up. It takes hours, it takes days. You know, we started downloading all the rules and working out how much of a puzzle we can really help people with. So, and now we're very useful in the research stage, the acquisition stage, and the design stage, and gearing up for the sales stage. So what we've done is we've aimed to improve efficiency for the whole market. So you guys would understand the design life cycle. So here's a simplified life cycle based around key milestones: pre-design concept, design DA, design development, then tender construction. So if you look here at the McLeamy curve, you know, if we look at the cost and impact of these stages as we go along the curve, which is that green curve going upward from left to right, each stage you go through the cost of design change, the cost of design changes significantly. So once you get to construction documentation past DA stage, if you want to make some changes after that, it's very difficult to do so. So you're seeing you have a very low ability to impact cost and function capability. So what Architar is all about at a very high level, it's about shifting the curve to the left. So how much more power can we give to users at the start of the process to change things instead of at the middle and end process where it's too hard and expensive? So the way that Architar is basically working on its platform is we have 4 different pieces of technology that work together. And I'm going to run through this, how they work, how the system works today. And because this is about, you know, really the future of property development, you know, we're going to show you basically how all this technology works. And our platform really starts at finding and assessing development sites, you know, generating designs, analyzing designs, and now we're moving even more into compliance using technology, which is a longer it's a longer project, but we're working with local councils and government to start to do that using technology. So essentially, when you're looking for sites, what you need to know is the planning regulations, as you all know, that are there at the moment. So we thought this would be a really easy, and we'd be able to go, you know, to data sources and connect some APIs, and that, you know, there it is. Unfortunately, it was a bit harder than that. It's taken us over 80,000 man hours to go right around Australia to source and document planning rules. We've actually mapped more than 266 million planning rules to properties. And if you've been through the planning process, it could be weeks of work, and now it can just take seconds. So you can go to any property in Australia and obtain planning regulations. And, you know, across our platform, we're basically covering 95% of properties being mapped, so over 11 million properties. So it's quite phenomenal. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you all through the platform and giving a look at this great technology.
Just so you know, David, your screen has stopped sharing. There we go.
Okay, so here is the Architar property platform. So basically, I can go into any property and work out the development potential of that property. So I might just go into an area like an area that probably people know. Let's say just Parramatta in New South Wales. All right, just for an example. All right, so this is quite a big city area, big development area, but it wouldn't matter where I went. So if we look here at this area, I can then go here into our add-ons on our platform. We have Nearmap as our base map. So basically Nearmap's the most high resolution aerial mapping platform available. It's updated 6 times a year at a minimum. So if I was just to turn Nearmap off, all right, and just say, for instance, I was looking for a particular type of site. So I was looking for an apartment site. So up comes everywhere where I can build apartments in this area. I can even search by zoning. So I could type in a particular zoning, minimum lot size. So I might say, look, you know, I'm only interested in lots that are more than 700 square meters. And now it will filter those lots. I can look at floor space ratio, which is not in every state, but sometimes based on height and site coverage. But I also can look at maximum building height. I can even go and look here for empty lots, and they appear through the analytics that we've created. We've even created an algorithm to demonstrate underdeveloped sites. So those sites pop. So these are areas which we've identified that they're not using the full extent of the planning regulations. So quite a phenomenal site finding tool. And when you look at this and then you start using the other data sets, so if I was to turn back on Nearmap, I can now see what's going on underneath here. So if I was just to go into a particular property, so just say I'll pick this one here, all right? So straight away, I can see here that it's an R4 high density zoning. So in New South Wales, that means I can build apartments. It's 721 square meters. There's my permitted uses. I can go in and I can see what's permitted with consent, what's not permitted with consent, what's prohibited. You can see here all the planning details. So it's City of Parramatta Council, maximum building height 11 meters, 550 square meter minimum lot subdivision, and so on. I can go here and get deeper planning controls in relation to dual occupancy, multi-dwellings. So all those requirements, minimum side setbacks, minimum front setback, say 5 meters. So, and we reference it. So this is where it's all coming from. If I was to click on that link, it'll actually take you to where that's coming from. And then there's overlay information here. So that we've been able to gather. There could be heritage, flood, etc. I can even just go and click straight into Parramatta Local Environmental Plan from here, and it will take me straight into that particular document. So, and then if a particular a subscriber was a CoreLogic RP data subscriber, they could deep link straight in. So there's a link there. If I click on that and I've got an RP data subscription, it will take me straight into this property in RP data. But at face value, you can see the address, the year built. You can see here and sales details, when it was last sold, any rental history, even an AVM, and some pictures. So really valuable information to have at your fingertips. Now, just to take it a step up to the next level, I'm just going to turn off these add-ons. And what we're going to do here now is we're just going to have a look at this particular area from a layer perspective. So if I go here into layers, we've got Australia's biggest zoning database. So it's another way of looking at it. So this is all R4, but you've got that visualization. We've got a maximum building height layer. So this is actually showing the lay of the land on permitted heights. Very cool to be able to look at. We put coloring for just to visualize the size of lots. So the darker lots are bigger. So it's just a visualization on showing that lay of the land when it comes to size of lots around here. We have contours. We've got 2D contours. We are working at the moment to get contours down to 1 meter. And 3D contours here as well. So if we go into 3D, again, there's a bit of a visualization here as to, you can see how the slope is looking from a broader perspective using 3D. Also, other really valuable layers to developers and property professionals, flood. So you can see the flood area just popped up there. It's handy to know if you're looking at property that's in a flood area. So really quickly to identify bushfire. So I don't think there's going to be too much bushfire around here, but those areas pop up. And then this great layer, which is heritage. So you can see all the heritage properties now popping up. So it's pretty important to know if you're in and around or on a heritage property. Other layers, such as we have a 3D building layer, existing footprint, which is updated every 3 or 4 months from PSMA data. So that is actually the existing footprint. So again, you know, extremely valuable to be able to look at that. And just a couple of other layers here. I can turn on rail, and then, you know, rail will pop up. And it draws a circle around stations. It's a 400-meter radius, 5-minute walk to the station. And we've also put in points of interest. So points of interest is within 400 meters to a school or a university. So you can see them popping up within those circles. So really valuable insights. We also have a My Data layer for our customers. So our customers do have the ability for us, if they've got very confidential layers, they can be put up. It could be an asset manager wanting to put all their, you know, map all their assets. It could be a government body wanting to map all their assets. It could be a valuation firm wanting to map all the valuations they've done over the years and have a layer like that. So many different things we can do for our customers, subject to their needs. So now let's look at this as a particular site. Now, as on its own merits, it's only 721 square meters. I really want to analyze this site. One of the first things I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into our add-ons, and I'm going to have a look at the Cordell information. And this is the business I used to run. So Cordell researches and reports on all building and construction information around the country, right from planning through to construction. So whether it be apartments or townhouses or a school, every type of construction projects, I think on the Cordell database is about 160,000 projects at any one time. So when I'm analysing a project, it's one thing for the planning controls saying that I can do something, but then to look around a project of interest and see other projects that may have been approved or in construction, then you're able to see, you know, where the envelope's been pushed, you know. No, this architect or this planner has been able to achieve more or even less than what the planning regulations say, but it would probably be more in most cases. So, you know, if I then start using these layers, I'll quickly turn that zoning layer back on. And so, you know, you can see here, there's some property, a DA here. If I click on that particular triangle, I go into this. You can see on this particular site, up the road, 15 units, 3 stories. So, I mean, there's 11-meter maximum height, but so they have managed to get more than 3 stories. That's been kept there. This was last updated back in May last year, so it was approved. And this is there's all the ownership detail, the architect, town planner. So you can really deep dig quite deep into that. Then you turn near map back on to say, okay, where is this actually at? Yep. So have they started getting into this yet? So from here, if I just go back to that particular site we were looking at previously, I might look at this as a combined site. This is because so I might say, look, I need to get this one as well. So I'll put them together. So now I've got a development site that's 1,411 square meters. I might not know much about this particular area. So I want to go into domain data and I want to check out, I can check out what's on the market. So any closed circle is what's on the market. Closed square is for sale, and a open square is sold. So I got that data there, and I can start looking at this information and what's happening. I can even go into a list view, and if I go into that, it'll work particularly off this particular suburb. So you can see in Parramatta, there's 183 properties currently on the market. There's over 200 rentals, 50 new properties, one shared, and then the sold history, all coming from domain. Now, what Architar has managed to do is also get the CoreLogic data on at the same time. So if I turn on CoreLogic, we're now mapping both data sets. So both domain and CoreLogic will say that they've got the whole market covered. In actuality, they don't. One's owned by Pricefinder's owned by domain, RP Data's owned by CoreLogic. But when you get both together, then you're really getting a full snapshot. If they were both perfect, then these squares and circles would be on top of each other. So if I then can look at some analytics, both from CoreLogic. So if I go into Suburb Analytics, and this is really cool, I can start to see how the suburb is performing. So this is apartments, this is houses. So if I look at apartments, there's your medium sales price. It's gone down 3.44% in Parramatta in the last 12 months. You can see rental, there's the movement. Number sold has increased in the last 12 months. Days on market, taking a bit longer to sell properties. And I can see 4-year performance from a sales perspective, sales price, rental price, total sold. And this is according to domain. If I go into the same thing with CoreLogic, you would expect to see a similar trend. But if one reporting is stronger than the other area based on numbers, you'd be able to identify that. So it's really fantastic to be able to do that sort of research all on the one platform. Just whilst I'm here, there's also all the commercial data here as well. So this is your for lease, your for sale, your sold and your leased from a commercial perspective. And we've got live access to the commercialrealestate.com.au API. And I'll just turn off the residential and you can see them appearing in black. And if I was to click on anything here, I can go straight into these. So go straight into the full detail, the same with domain and CoreLogic. So I think the optimum word here is being able to research properly and understand. I mentioned Cordell before, but we also built a table view here too. So I can actually use filters, and if I was interested in something in particular, like just DAs in say residential, then it will just give me a table view of those, and then I can go into any of those particular projects and do further research. Okay, so I'm just going to turn these layers off, and now we'll get into some of the more high level stuff. So if I was to go here and want to do a very quick estimate, so this is more just a quick look at what I may or may not be able to do here. I'll just click here onto our quick estimate. And I'll just double check the FSR here. So we're working on 11 meters. Okay. So there's no direct FSR that's been put on this particular site. So if there was a direct FSR, it would automatically load on there. Here it hasn't. So what I'll do here, okay, that's all good. So just back to this site, just to show you how the quick estimate works. I need to do a little bit more research to get exactly what I want. But if the FSR was in fact, say, say 1.5:1, and if it was sitting there, it would automatically load. I can go in here and I can do a very quick estimate. So you can see building efficiency can change, floor efficiency. We've just got some defaults put in there, floor height, site coverage. I might just put a site coverage here of 75%. Say average size unit 75 square meters. I might say my average sale price here on a 75 square meter unit might be 700,000. And to build, I'd be looking at, well, let's just leave it at 300. I want to make a 20% profit. ODC, other development costs, standard percentage at 10%. This is a very quick analysis, closing costs, which is like your stamp duty and your due diligence. So they're just automatically loaded in there. And then I could have worked here on building height and density, but I'll just work here. I'll just put a floor space ratio, just a quick calculation. And then automatically it's sort of saying, well, I can get 23 units on here. There's my net realization, and I could pay $4 million for the site based on these calculations very quickly on these inputs. So what this is sort of saying is, should I keep on looking at this? Does it make any sense based on the controls at a very basic level? And we do a quick breakdown on all those, on how that's been calculated. Now, to take it to the next level, we're talking about using our parametric design generators. And this is now the world first technology. And this is advancing very rapidly. So if I go here into our design generators, so we have design generators for apartments, mixed use, townhouses, subdivisions, commercial. And funny enough, within the next couple of weeks, we're going live with a duplex generator and also a hotel generator. So there's a lot of work going into this. But if I go here into our apartment generator, in this case, I can show you some of the really cool stuff here. So I just put some, I'll just populate very quickly. We have a default mix here of 20% 1 bedroom, 60% 2 bedroom, 20% 3 bedroom. You can change those mixes, 50 square meter 1, 75 square meter 2, and 95 square meters of 3 bedroom. So just a quick breakdown. I might put just put a garage in the ones and the twos, and maybe 0.2 visitors. I'll just change these setbacks. And yeah, and what we'll do here is we'll just generate. So if I just hit the generate, now it will start to look at some design strategies as to what you can put on this particular block of land. So they will appear now. So they're just generating, it's pretty quick. So here they come. So now what we're doing is we're bringing buildings up out of the ground. This is obviously pretty simple building, but we have much more complex designs that start to appear. And this is only like a very basic sort of design, but the sort of things that are here is, so we go here into building mix. So we start to show that. You can see the lifts and the stairwells. Car parks. So it's sort of created a car park, underground car park design. Sunlight analysis. So these ones at the front here are getting more sunlight, so they're going to sell for more money here. Ventilation. So in New South Wales, I think any building under nine story, any stories under 9 stories have to be, above 9 stories have to be ventilated. If we go here into shadowing, it's another cool thing. You can see that we produce the shadowing across the hours. That's not taking into consideration buildings around, but it's giving you an idea of the shadowing. Even building separation if it's a bigger building and how that works. I mean, I even can turn on nearby buildings and see how it looks in the scheme of things. So yeah, that's the technology is just developing rapidly, and it gets and on much bigger projects where the designs are quite varied. Now from here, just say I was interested in this design, I can go in here and I can do a feasibility. And I can put, what I think I'd sell these for. I can look at build quality, average quality, prestige, and it will load in straight from Cordell the rates per square meter with a location factor. So for instance, if we look at this, you can see, so if I put these in, we'd probably use if I was to use a quality type of construction in masonry wall, 3 stories, automatically it's put in a build cost from Cordell, including basement. Cordell's always going to be a bit inflated because it's based on retail. If I bring it down to average, you'll see that construction costs come down. It's only 3 stories, so it's it also is going to have a slightly higher rate. And then, agents fees, professional fees, put a contingency factor. Only simple interest at this point. We haven't got to the point of the time value of money or discounted cash flows, but that is coming. And we are working with some large organisations into building that into the platform. But initially, we wanted it to be quick and easy. When you start getting into the more detailed cash flows, it's a bit more involved, but obviously very important for a developer because it's make or break time and with the cost of money. And other fees, but legal fees and other contribution costs and so on. And now, if the other thing and then it will give me like a residual land value based on those expenses and gross realisation. And then we move into what we call our development due diligence report, which is quite amazing. We've built this. I think it's over 30 pages, and you can choose which pages you want, and it can be self-branded, and a developer or agent or whoever it may can put the picture of themselves, and now it produces this automated report on these properties. So property details, land use, permitted uses, planning controls, zoning, heritage. So you can see you can get any of it on there. Even all the sales data for sale, and even look at designs and pick out the best ones. So a lot of detail has gone into this. Okay. A couple of other things just before I finish up. There's also a measuring tool on the platform, which we built actually during the current climate for valuers, so they can remotely do valuations and measure. And we've now made that available to all our customers. So if I was just on a property, and I turned on our measuring tool. I went into Nearmap. So what I can do here is start measuring. So I can start, if I wish to, literally just start measuring around the building. And it's very simple and easy, and get a very quick area here. And yeah, so, and then it will give me that particular area instantly, or if I wanted to put a pool in, I want to measure some distances. So there's all that information too. And finally, we have Australia's biggest library, digital planning library. So wherever it is in Australia, so I went into Queensland, and I wanted to go into the councils, and I could go into, say, Gold Coast, and there's all your documents, development codes. I can go into, I'll go back in there, let's say overlays. So there's all your overlays. I can go straight into those documents. So it's all there at your fingertips. So look, I've spoken a while, and I just wanted to give everyone a bit of a grounding onto the work that we're doing, and I could literally, spend hours going through this technology and more detail on the generators, etc. But I think those that have been listening can really see what we've done here, being able to find and analyze the development potential of single and adjacent blocks of land, taking into consideration planning controls, understanding what we can do with sites, and then start to look at potential design strategies and so forth. And we continue to develop our platform. We're very agile, and there's so many more data sources and development that just goes on continuously based on our customer feedback, which is quite extensive, from the likes of government through to major developers like Stockland, to just even mum and dad developers or other property professionals and architects. So there you have it from me. So I hope you all enjoyed that.
Fantastic, David. Really impressive. And I know the main target market, like roughly around 70%, are developers and builders, but the overflowing percentage, like if you can just explain for real estate agents, for someone marketing stock for any developers that's developing, whether it's on your platform or by other means, we have an interest to do this. How are they using your platform?
Okay, so real estate, so if you look at real estate agents, so 10% really play in the project marketing, finding development site space more as a full-time gig, all right? Another 20% of them dabble in it, so they're running their normal real estate agencies, and they might do a site or two a year by default, maybe a townhouse site that they'll sell a couple of blocks of land. They might be able to get 8 townhouses on, and they'll do that. And then you probably got the other 70% that just watch everyone else do it because they've never had the smarts or felt the confidence to dabble in it. Yet these are the people that are talking to potential sellers all the time, and they're not even able to really tell them the highest and best use of their properties. They're not even able to guide them. So, this property on its own might be worth 1.5 million, all right? But if you go and sell this with Mr. Jones and Mrs. Black, all right, now all of a sudden we can put, so many townhouses on here or whatever it may be, all right? We enter into an option and we can get you an extra $500,000 more. And Mrs. Black might say, look, I've been in this house for 30 years and I'm going to die in this house. And, so don't worry, we'll work it out for you. We'll give you a nice brand new townhouse right here, and we'll put you somewhere nice while we're building, and we'll give you mealy appliances and everything. I mean, that's what it's about, creating opportunities. But for real estate agents, it's about giving them the ability to research and be more informative as professionals to those that are looking to sell property, not to mention having all these other data sets in the one place, being able to provide so many insights. And also, you've got your property management, you're actually displaying, properties for lease, for sale. So just to have all that there in the one place. And there's also that development due diligence report, which is like a CMA report, comparative market analysis report on steroids. So to have all those tools there available for agents, or agents that are using our platform are getting a lot of value to help them, grow their businesses, win more listings, look for other revenue strands, because going into the development space is the next natural progression after listing and selling houses. Not to mention, the Cordell data, being able to just approach developers that are actually building, looking to develop, units, apartments, or whatever it may be, and offer their real estate services to market and sell those properties.
Fantastic. So one of the things that Bob Sharon's going to have a bit of a discussion around IoT at the moment, and you has some collaboration features that are getting turned on. So how can organisations actually collaborate? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
So, look, when it comes to collaborating, it depends on the data sets and whether strategically it fits in with our platform. So we have ongoing discussions with a lot of different businesses that have a lot of different data sets. So really, yeah, it just depends on whether that data set makes sense to have on our platform, and what's involved in putting it there, and is it going to provide value to the masses of our subscribers, which continues to grow.
Yeah. It'll be fantastic as we progress the conversations. As you know, we've got 3D printed homes and the potential to 3D print in hempcrete. So, having those figures adjusted in the feasibility figures that you've just displayed would be fantastic as we progress conversations to understand more of that. I think before we move on for Bob, and we've got 27 minutes left, I don't want to go over time. So, I would like to sort of open it up, Bob, Peter, if there's any, Dennis, Anastasia, if there's any questions that you had for David, please just raise your hand or speak up. And Peter.
Hi, David. Cordell's, of course, is the industry standard. It has been for, decades.
So, 1969 it was set up by Joan Cordell. So
I remember consulting the book many, many times, yeah. Are you thinking of moving it into other countries, and is it adaptable?
Yeah, it's actually happening as we speak.
Yeah.
So we'll be launching into the US,
yeah,
and into the UK. We're supposed to be there now, but we just got held up a little bit with the current state of play. But we have some big partners over there, and no one's ever done anything like this internationally. But the real part of it is what I showed you very briefly with the parametrics and those design generators. I remember a couple of years ago, there was an article in the Financial Review about Dr. Ben, enabler or disruptor to the architectural industry. And we've really been working, because Ben doesn't want to be seen as a disruptor. We're trying to use technology to aid the architectural industry. And I don't think anyone thought that Ben would get to the level that he's got to, but yeah, it's quite amazing. But that's technology, isn't it?
Yes, it's fantastic.
Did you have any further questions at all, Peter?
Yeah, I do have one query. I mean, it's more of an ethical thing, because I deal with the ethics of smart cities and dealing with affordable housing a lot. And it's, if the real estate agent finds out that a house is for sale at a lower price than it probably should be, and he's acting for the sellers, has he got an obligation to tell them, or should he tell the buyer?
Well, I think a lot of the time it's ignorance. I probably shouldn't say that, but it's just because a lot of the time they don't even know. But I would definitely, I used to, many years ago, I owned a real estate agency myself. Yeah, I think they do have an obligation, whether they do or they don't. Well, who's keeping them check at that? Well, that's another question. If I've owned a house for 40 years, and it's got this development potential, and I'm a real estate agent that wants to, and I need to get out of there and because I can't stay there any longer and I need to sell so I can go and move into a retirement village or something. Well, I just want to sell my house. And so whether the agent is actually informing that particular client correctly that they could potentially get 8 townhouses on there, and if you go through that process, which takes a lot longer, they're going to get an extra $500,000. Well, that's questionable, isn't it? So
yeah, that's what I think. I think that's a dilemma of the smart city, and apart from privacy issues, that's a dilemma of the technology which we have to solve, I think, to be fair to
and I think,
yeah.
But I think we are actually going to help with that process with more and more people using our technology, agents, developers, because those if it is about ignorance, i.e., not knowing and not having the ability or wanting to take the time to find out these things, obviously using a platform like ours, it's pretty instant as to being able to give that sort of advice. But yeah, I get what you mean by the moral point. If they do know and they're not, informing people, well, that's not really right. So,
Thanks. It's brilliant.
So what we might do, Bob, if you could do because we've got content obviously from the past, which we'll combine with the now. So if you have anything to blend through, and I'd be really great if you could, I think, focus on a bit of the permaculture, agriculture in terms of some of these buildings that can get developed and our plans for affordable housing, and specifically within our social enterprise structure for troubled youth. Be fantastic is obviously that they could be just that process of growing your own food, or anyone across the board. So if you could focus on that, we'll try to keep it to 10 minutes. So we've got a 10-minute sort of round table, and Peter can explain some of his projects around the world. And then, as I said, we can continue on with this content, Bob. So over to you.
Okay, well, I'll share my screen. So just bear with me a second, and we'll go into that, and I'll adapt that into exactly what we're talking about. So let's go in. There we go. And just bear with me. Share computer sound. Right. Okay, can you see that?
Yes, we got it.
Beautiful. Okay, let's get into it. We'll just go through the quick fast. We're going to go through this very quickly because I know we have limited time. So I just want to share a quick 1-minute video. Okay, so let's skip some of this. Just quickly, we won a couple of major awards. We took out the IoT Pioneer Award last June by Next Media, and last November took out the Facilities Management Association FM Industry Awards for Excellence in Industry Innovation, which was pretty amazing. Just here are some of our customers and partners, and we're growing this very radically. Our systems cover a whole bunch of stuff. So we started with office buildings. We're now moving into, we've got council buildings. We're doing our first hotel, shopping centre, agriculture, permaculture, all these things, areas we're going to be moving into. And there's huge things that we can do. So basically, we've come from smart buildings, and we basically have developed the world's first virtual BMS, EMS, Building Management System, Energy Management System in one. That's IoT based. It's non-proprietary, open platform, and costs half the price of traditional versions, but goes into health and wellness, goes into predictive maintenance, and again, even with COVID, even with distancing, heat mapping, asset tracking, a whole bunch of stuff, and certainly in the ag field is going to be huge. So let's go into this very quickly. Traditional systems are all hardwired. They're proprietary. They typically come from Siemens, Schneider, Honeywell, all these very large companies, and their predominant function is about making money. And the second one is about making more money. And the next one is about making more money. For us, it's about customer outcomes. So all this traditional stuff, very inflexible, very hardwired and proprietary and expensive. So what we're doing is our system, Encompass Blue, sits in a tier 4 data center in the cloud. We have analytics platforms, machine learning, shortly AI, analyzing all the data feeds from our wireless sensors. And we invented the first rules-based wireless sensors, which means we can tell sensors when and how to send data to us. Now that can be in the ground. So if we've got crops, we can have sensors in the ground to determine salinity, moisture, a whole lot of things, air quality, all sorts of different facets, and can even automate water flows, functions, irrigation, all sorts of different things for plants and things like that. We're doing this for buildings. And we're using a LoRaWAN-based technology, which is a global standard, and it's a non-IP network, which means it is highly cyber secure. We do not run an IP network. We minimize the risk of cyber hack. And I've noted today we've had a state-based attack on all Australian governments, federal government today from a particular state, another country that is. So we will be in a very prime position to mitigate risk of any attack on whatever systems we're operating. So here are just some of the things that we can control and look at with sensors. We've got hundreds of different sensors that we can use: water quality, air quality, flows, pressure differential, you name it. We can get into it through our platform. The LoRaWAN architecture, which is a long-range, wide area network. So line of sight, we can go 10 kilometers from a sensor. So if you've got crops and you've got a large farm, this thing can go, a long distance. We use multiple gateways. So if a gateway fails, it doesn't matter. So it's a redundant network with redundant SIMs. So if Telstra fails, it doesn't matter. And if there's no connectivity or it's bad, we can go direct to satellite. So again, not an issue at all. And with that, we can track assets as well. We can track different things. And here's a great slide that shows the take-up of LoRaWAN. So this year will be about 200 million end nodes. NB-IoT is catching up. We'll have options on our controllers for NB-IoT and Cat-M1. And we've done a worldwide deal with Vodafone, actually. And we'll be doing a lot of work together with them. But at any rate, this is a common, well-known standard around the world. We do not use proprietary protocols or standards. We use open standards, so we can connect with open APIs. So like to Architar, for example, or asset management platforms or work order management platforms, and we can integrate and then run as part of a major ecosystem and collaborate with other open platforms. So this just shows a comparative of what our systems do as compared to traditional systems. So what that means is we even have data analytics by domain expert engineers. So it's not just here's an automated report, it's, well, you've got issues here and here, but if you did this, we can fix that, or we need to get a contractor out to have a look at this pump because it looks like the bearings are falling apart, but we know before that happens, so it can be done in an orderly shutdown and mitigate the risk of unplanned maintenance, that kind of thing. We got flexibility to make changes and make changes at no cost on our platform if you're on a premium or comprehensive subscription. So we're changing the rules. It's about constantly improving performance, reducing energy, and making life easier and better, reducing pain, improving crop yields. And this will go to supporting that area of increasing crop yields and improving and moving towards carbon neutrality big time. So it's quite substantial. We can extend asset life. Because of COVID, what's going to happen is budgets to replace systems, whether it's farm systems or building HVAC systems, are going to be delayed. We can extend the asset life of all of these quite dramatically with our platform, as well as improving human health and wellness and reducing costs. So it's quite interesting. And the role of machine learning and then AI, again, is huge. We've already implemented machine learning and extending that. We'll shortly be implementing AI. We're already working on it in the background. And so again, we're improving performance and looking at the whole ecosystem, not just one bit, but looking at the whole lot. And in the cloud, we can do it. So in a particular case study, you can see over 6 months, comparing energy bills and utility bills, we've saved 46% of the total utility bills year on year. 70% of HVAC energy, 64% of gas, and 27% better than best practice for an office area as declared by ERA, which is the HVAC body for Australia. This is a 40-year-old building with 22-year-old infrastructure, which was not changed. So pretty amazing. Just over 2-year payback period with full visibility. So extending this again within agriculture, and extending this to even substantial low-cost housing, we can dramatically improve performance, reduce energy, and work with a number of other innovative providers to mitigate the risk and, again, move towards carbon neutrality while we're reducing costs and making life better for everybody. So that's kind of the 2-second version of this platform that we deliver. So it's comprehensive look at all facets of whether it be a farm or a building, whether it be, human wellness and health, even compliance, and going through to total automation from the cloud. Our controllers on site run their own loops, even if there's a disconnect from the cloud. It's a very disruptive technology that's making a dent, and we are setting up channel partners around the globe at the moment. And we'll have Saudi Arabia coming on shortly. We've got a big building there planned to start work soon, which will be a showpiece for the Middle East. We've got stuff happening in America, UK, a whole lot of student accommodation in the UK. Actually, we're talking to one of the major operators again, and there's a whole lot of things that we'll be doing there. So I hope that will stimulate the mind a little bit and allow a couple of minutes for a bit of a chat.
Fantastic, Bob. I love every time you talk, mate, and explain what you're doing. Learn more every single time, and looking forward to hearing, I suppose, some feedback, some questions as well from potentially Peter and David. And looking forward to introducing more people to your technology so we can have an impact with this. And just on that, we'll for anyone that's watching, there should be forms on this page. You can reach out. You can see Blue IoT. You've seen the Architar. So please do reach out if you can benefit from utilising both these technologies. For closing this off today, we've got 10 minutes left. I just want to open the floor for the experts to and our guests as well, with Dennis and Anastasia, if there's any questions in regards to the developments that we've discussed. So let's just open it up. If you want to raise your hand in no particular order. David, over to you.
Yeah, Bob, really interesting. So you're working. So you mentioned things like student accommodation. No doubt you're talking to government as well, I assume.
Well, we're dealing with council, Dandenong, City of Greater Dandenong. We're doing several buildings. We're now working at the Waverley Council in Sydney. In fact, the guys are in Sydney installing next week. The library, underground car park, controlling the fans in the car park based on CO levels. And we're talking to the New South Wales Department of Environment and for all their buildings. But office buildings, hotels, we're doing a core hotel in Melbourne. So it cuts across everything.
So just to put in perspective, and obviously I've had a fair bit of experience with Cordell and specifying products in the project. So I would think that at a core level, to get in very early and specify would make this more cost effective, you know, than obviously trying to convert. So from a
50% more cost effective.
there you go. So first of all, implement, like to actually develop this from the start. Is it much more? Just say I was building an office building, you know, for $30 million somewhere. Not a big one, but yep. And I want to use your technology there. Is it going to cost me much more at the construction point?
No. Half. The reason is there's no cabling. You don't have to run cables anywhere. You don't have to run a backnet network, a Modbus, or an Ethernet network. Everything is wireless. It's radio controlled. So you're already saving money. Sensors as well do not require power. I don't need a power cable in the wall to put a sensor. So my sensors go where they need to be to get more accurate data. And if there's a change during construction, which never happens, of course,
right,
then we can move them, no cost.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't.
I was being facetious.
I know you were. And what about from a point of saving with the efficiency of the building and costs, etc.?
Okay, absolutely. Well, just like you saw on that brownfield site. So on the retrofit, massive savings. Now, the problem with new BMSs is they're so expensive that they don't use it to their full utilization because programming is expensive, right? So what they do is they use a new BMS just as an automation system. So they automate. They do the minimum number of points because it's $600 to $900 a point, depending on which system you're using. And so they'll do the minimal points to automate. Now, if they want energy efficiency, they then buy a separate EMS. And that adds more cost. And even then, they're not measuring every electrical circuit. We measure every electrical circuit using Socomec equipment, which is the most accurate. So by measuring every electrical circuit that is relevant to the mechanical and the lighting and all of those, we understand what's happening. And so on that basis, our efficiency gains, even on a brand new building, will be 30% better than anything else out there.
So then why wouldn't I use your technology?
Thank you. You answered the question. The reason it hasn't worked so far, I've tried to go to Lend-Lease. I'm talking to a number of people in Lend-Lease. We're too small, right? We're growing, but we're too small for them. We're just a little Aussie operator. By the time Lend-Lease comes to us, we'll already be running buildings in America and in Saudi Arabia and the UK. Then Lend-Lease will come back to me. I've tried to get into Lend-Lease, but they're, old school and we're too small.
Yeah, you also have to be careful that Lend-Lease don't steal your idea.
I wasn't going to say that.
No, we've got certain regime of how we protect our stuff. So at a high level, sure, but at a low level, But I hear what you're saying, and you're right. Yes, I understand where you're coming from.
But is the resources required to scale it? That's the there's when you're talking the amount of construction projects that take place. You do have a big market. I know that. And to get to that whole market is just in Australia, let alone anywhere else, requires, this is not just something that you can sell via e-commerce. It needs a pretty much consultative sell.
It does. In fact, part of the capital cost that we do at half the price, by the way, of a traditional system includes the consulting piece.
Yeah.
So we already do that in terms of how we're going to optimize, how we're going to make it work. It is bespoke. You're right. You can't just order the thing. But what you can do over e-commerce is once it is in, say, look, we want to get 3 more temperature sensors here. We need a CO sensor there, CO2 sensor. Add $20 a month onto the subscription. It comes in and gets installed. That part's real easy.
But you've got to educate me to want to change everything I'm doing and change my mindset and go through that process.
This is part of this ongoing collaboration of information that we want to put together with experts like yourself, market leaders, to combine it, connect it all. And like we're creating information courses with what we're doing with our parent company here to indoctrinate into software as a service or other models. So looking forward to getting some results and being one of those consultants and getting more consultants to get your great technology out there, guys.
Great work, Bob. You're on the
Can I just add one
Thank
more
you.
thing, Dan?
I was going to say, Peter, because you're next, I'd love to hear, if you can explain more about what you're doing with your projects and what you've done in the Philippines, helping, because Bob's got an amazing mission as well to help. I'll let maybe you explain just quickly, Bob, with you've talked about wanting to help prevent child slavery, and we've got all these different things that are close to our heart to fix problems around the world. And I've already said it, that's Bob's.
I do. I wonder, where part of my vision is to, get rid of, child brides, child slavery, sex slavery, all that stuff, all that garbage, get them out. I lived in the Philippines for many years, by the way. So I heard you say you're doing stuff in the Philippines. Lived there for many years, some while ago. Quite interesting. Can speak Tagalog, fluently, amongst other things, but interesting place. But I want to do this throughout Asia and the subcontinent, right through to part of the vision that I have, amongst other things that we want to do. So yeah. Definitely.
So Peter, if you could explain more with the amazing projects you've done, and don't know whether you want to talk about what Gina buggered up for you, but please tell us more about yourself and what your take is on today.
Well, let me just say one thing about Bob's, this technology that he's using is that actually if you apply it globally, and since '89 I've been mostly out of Australia working, and I probably visited 70 countries and worked in 30 of them, is that this kind of technology looks like it's not useful in terms of, it seems individual to individual developers, but actually this is the solution to global climate change. This is applied throughout on a large scale and citywide scales. His technology will, and there are other people too. There's a company in Germany called Edge.tech, who are doing really amazing buildings as well, and they're friends of mine, and they really, they're cutting edge on this. This is really the fact that you're looking after the world and the people, etc. That's really important. For me, I was a director in Sydney of a company called Travelers Partners, which used Cordell's regularly. It was a big multidisciplinary architectural company, and I left there because I was bored and sick and tired of Australia, and went to Singapore, started there, built a business. I worked throughout Asia and the Middle East from that point, because in those days Singapore was the base of most resort work. We developed the Asian style of architecture and built the first, designed and built the first resort called the Banyan Tree in Phuket. And that sort of rolled that along, and from there we moved into major resort developments, design and construct, mostly golf and hotels and things like that. Built businesses in Malaysia, Indonesia, and then went to China, which was another challenge. For me, I only last 5 years in a country. I get bored and I have to move somewhere. So we built the business in Shanghai, and for the first 5 years we were illegal. Because it's so difficult to get legal in that place, and had smuggled money to Hong Kong, etc., and send it back, but eventually it cracked, and we did very well there and built some really fabulous properties. Then I went to the Middle East, and I've done and worked on, in fact, my first major city development was actually in the Philippines, in a place called Cavite. And that was the first eco city, and it was for poor people. In those days, it was affordable housing, and the lots were only 3 meters by 7 meters, which allowed people to just build one floor, and they got microfinancing, and then they were able to increase the floors. Or some people bought more than one lot and built bigger houses. But what's happened now is, the interesting thing is that we took people out of the slums, gave them public transport back into the city. And of course we had to put security, because once you disrupt a slum, you're breaking up a mafia controlled society, a violently controlled society, who make their money off the small amounts that people have. So yeah, so we did that, and that was a great success. Now, that was in 1990. So 30 years later, those properties are being sold to upper middle class people.
I was there then. I was there.
Yeah. So it's taken people out of their poverty. And I'll tell you one thing also, the microfinance, the people who are microfinanced, not one person missed a payment.
Wow.
Ever. And these were people who were they were the nurses, the people, the garbage men, the people who cleaned hotels, made the beds. These were the people who really worked hard for their families, and then they made them life. So, and I worked in Indonesia and with President Suharto, which was kind of interesting, and then did a big development for him, and a small city in Kemayoran, and then went, as I say, went to the Middle East. In the Middle East, we did, it was my biggest project, which was for the Sheikh in Ras Al Khaimah, which was a $20 billion development. 20 billion dirham development, which is sorry, one sec. I wanted to show you something. This one. Can you see that?
Wow. Yep.
Okay, so that's me looking a lot younger. And this was dirhams, 20 billion is $6 billion. So we put that together and we put a consortium together to do it with some Chinese, etc. And that was really a significant start of the smart and sustainable work that we were doing, and based on Bill Mollison's. I've always been based on Bill Mollison's work, so I believe in his philosophy, and also his basically that life is meant to be simple. And I also believe in read a lot and influenced by E.F. Schumacher, who wrote a book called Small is Beautiful. So, those two things really have an effect on how I approach anything. So you can see just quickly some of the areas that this is in Egypt. We built hotels and low-cost housing in Egypt, in Cairo, and in China, of course. We've done multi-story stuff as well. Some work in France, which was a new city. This was in Dubai. So from the Ras Al Khaimah projects, I did some work with the Sheikhs in Ajman and Abu Dhabi. But the last project I did, largest project, is in Dubai, and this is called a project called Desert Rose. And I was the director of this project for the government. And it's 4,000 hectares, and is for low-cost housing for locals. So it was done in pods and completely organized so that the landscape dominated, and the central point is actually a town center. That town center is 4 kilometers long, so the scale of this, you can see, is substantial, and that's one pod there. So this is for local housing, and there were cheap loans available. It's been slowed down. This was the Philippines project, Metrogate Silang. So yeah, that was a significant. I think personally one of the great projects that we've ever done.
Beautiful.
Because we gave them everything. We gave them golf driving ranges. This is a project set between a Jack Nicklaus golf resort and another super resort, and then we put these low income people in the middle of it. So we gave them everything the resorts had: driving range, golf driving ranges, swimming pools, a church, Catholic church, which is a given, real estate, retail, etc. So we tried to make people happy. I mean, in my career, that seems to me to be the most important thing, is to try and make people do things that make people happy. Yeah. So that's enough of that. But we
just to interject, if you don't mind, Peter, just while that comes to me, because I know, David, with Architar, there was some, you didn't showcase it, but maybe next time, and I know you're limited for time, so if you do need to go, please just yell out, and by all means. But the precinct planning as well, how far developed is that in terms of being able to plan the build of a city like what Peter's just explained?
Okay, so I mean, that's one of Ben's passions, to be able to create precincts using generative design, and we're moving closer to that. So, just say we needed to house 10,000 people in a community, then being able to generatively design that whole city. That's certainly where we're headed. So yeah, it's certainly on our roadmap, and that's what we're building towards. As it stands now, we're able to do different types of dwellings on the one blocks, so we could do some townhouses and some units using generative design. So we're developing that technology. Subdivisions is obviously a big part of it. So we have a subdivision generator, which I didn't have time to show everybody, but you know, you could have like up to 150, 200,000 square meters, and then put up to five different lot sizes, and it'll create all these different lot plans, you know, with roads going through it automatically. So and that's all just really amazing technology. So yeah, this is actually advancing at a very rapid pace.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, Peter. If you can keep that in mind. Sorry to cut you off and carry on, mate.
No, I'll be quick because I don't want to bore you. But I'm interested in the technology, Anastasia's technology, and all of you guys, because this is a collaboration that could really make something amazing and take us into the real world. What a friend of mine calls spades in the dirt. In terms of this modern, smart and sustainable technology. For example, we're doing a project, a new city outside of Hanoi, which is a smart and sustainable city, which will have a very fast train connection. It's got everything that we can do, and doesn't have the sort of sidewalk problems, you know, they have in Toronto, which is privacy.
Yeah, that's an interesting, I'd love to hear your views on that, Peter.
Yeah, so we could bring together, and I think I will try and arrange that for us to all work on that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. That's a $20 billion project. That's dollars, not dirhams. And so I've been working for 4 years on it now, and it's getting to the stage where we're getting to the pointy end. Now also we're doing 300,000 low-cost houses or low-income houses in Sri Lanka at the moment. We just designed a 60 square meter, 3-bedroom home. And the challenge in that, of course, is to do it that Sri Lankans will accept. So, you know, because it's a very difficult market to go into in terms of, because they've tried to do prefabricated stuff from China. They've tried to do all sorts of steel stuff, and it doesn't work. No one wants it. And it's not a question of whether it's affordable or whatever, it's whether they want it. So we've developed a model which is like a traditional village housing, for funny things like Sri Lankans like to sleep on the ground floor. You know, there's simple things like, where do you go to Thailand? In Thailand, they like to sleep on the first floor. So
just for that project as well, Peter, because I mentioned when you didn't come on, but Anna from APIS Core, she hasn't got a generic presentation, so we will be continuing this content. She's going to come on, present for the affordable housing, how that applies, how the hempcrete applies to the mixtures going into her printers to print homes in hempcrete. If we can collectively, as that collaboration, work out some questions to put a presentation that she can present for her exposure and for helping fit this together, and how we could potentially attach that to the feasibility, like I said to you before, David, with 3D printing in hemp or 3D printing in masonry concrete. I mean, I'm just bringing people together like I'm doing, but I don't have all the questions. So if you can help, if we can email or what have you to get those questions, so we can get a really good presentation of how we apply APIS Core and get these printers all around the world for things like your Sri Lankan project. And while we're on it, Pete, like for the recording, if you can explain what we talked about with the 3D printing and your knowledge and the ways that we can construct moving forward.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, 3D printing is the way to go. And we've been looking at a project in, actually it's an aid project in Kenya, in a place called Kisumu, which has all the problems with waterborne diseases. So we're working with the Gates Foundation and the Ford Foundation to try and to see if we can get that, basically address the cholera, malaria, all the waterborne disease problems there. And that's really significant. We also, to do that, you need to get people away from the lowlands and get them into affordable housing. And so we have an idea to buy some 3D printing machines and use that technology to build homes there, but also in a traditional setting. So we will go back to the various tribes in Africa. They have different community, how would you say, planning. The village head sits somewhere and his family are around, and then they have a communal veggie patch and they have where the goats are and where the, all the animals are. And we want to reproduce this in a modern sense. Now, how do you do that affordably is really important. So you've got to do that. You've got to waste a bit of land. In other words, in most affordable housing in Singapore, in most countries, in India, etc., is multi-story, tiny blocks. And in the Singapore model is very good, and I lived in one for a while. But it's only because of the community facilities below them, not the actual housing. So we want people to have their own homes, have a backyard, have a porch, and these are the key elements, I think, to happy family living. The environment they live in. So to do that with 3D printing is a doddle, and you can do any shape. So, for example, the Kasumu one is a hexagonal. Now, I talked to a builder about doing a hexagonal, and they just told me to go away. So,
Peter, sorry, mate. I want to continue. If you've got time, I want to continue the conversation. But David Hunt has to leave now, so I just wanted to thank him for what he's done today and showcasing the technology. And we'll continue the conversation. Looking forward to getting some people on your technology to be more efficient with what they're doing in construction. And if you're willing to, David, if you've enjoyed the conversation, we'd like to continue this time permitting moving forward and just help more people do things a lot smarter. So thank you very much.
And definitely happy to stay involved, and I hope everyone was interested in the technology that I shared today, and I was certainly interested in what everyone else shared. So it's great being a part of this morning.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. That's excellent. I got a bunch
thanks
of
very
notes
much,
here that I'll
guys.
send through to later.
Feel free to reach out. You've got my details, and look forward to chatting in the near future.
Thank you so much, David.
I'll have to jump off now.
Yeah, cool. So,
have a good weekend, everybody.
Thank you. You too.
All right. See ya.
Yeah, so the company that we use to do this is called Whole Earth Communities. So I don't know if you remember a magazine years ago in the 70s and 80s called Whole Earth magazine. But I'm highly influenced by those. And that's all simple native construction, indigenous construction, and using simple materials, etc. And it's very, very left wing, which I'm also very left wing, if I declare.
Well, I'd like to just invite Dennis and Anastasia to talk about what they're doing with. We've got a model we're rolling out in terms of the knowledge business, which we see as an opportunity for people to break free from a digital perspective and have their income and have some self-sufficiency and freedom on that basis. But we're setting up a social enterprise to fund these developments, and would like to talk to you, about getting involved and this core team to, the contacts are floating around. So we're bringing, the synchronicities are happening, the people are there, we're just got to bring it together. So Dennis and Anastasia, if you want to explain a little bit about what we've talked about.
I mean, firstly, congratulations to both of you. All three of these projects I've heard are all incredibly interesting from a perspective of parallels in the projects that we've been working on over the last year and a half around, firstly, comprehending the impacts of humans on environmental assets, being able to tangibly assess that, be able to map that value over time. Also looking at the greenhouse for enterprise and talent model, which we have been working on over the last year or so. That comes from a disadvantaged youth perspective initially. That's looking at introducing entrepreneurial programs for initially disadvantaged youth in certain areas. And we're also looking at expanding that to technology. And the platform that we've been working on over the last year or so is essentially, for the tech interested, it's an infrastructure deployable on any type of infrastructure, from peer-to-peer to traditional type of models. And what it's meant to do is tie together very large data sets so that we can do analysis on them over time. We can evaluate what the impact of knowledge added to those data sets over time. And essentially it's really to see tangible value past the economics, socio-economic, socio-environmental. And some of the items from Dave's presentation quite triggered some of the thoughts that we've been having around socio-economic impacts, sustainable housing, sustainable developments, being able to have these type of data layers combined into a very easy format that we can open source essentially. What we are building is a workflow platform that allows us to tie together a variety of data sets and infrastructures to be able to provide dashboards and various types of calculators to evaluate how those data sets correlate. The larger picture, of course, is a project that we've been working on called Sustainable Villages, and we've been working with an Indonesian crowd as well to see if we can deploy one of these programs over there. It's targeting disadvantaged youth in Indonesia from the perspective of lack of access to technology education and learning, and be able to offer some of that over there. But there's so many bits and pieces moving here, and I think what we are looking at doing is incorporating three main aspects of land restoration, permaculture, and indigenous studies. So looking at the past, looking at the present, looking at where we need to take certain pieces of land, and actually building out learning centers as part of these properties. So showcase how permaculture can work with native vegetation. Some of the projects we've been working on has been focused on biological impact, and we've been doing some work with some teams in Australia to analyse certain properties in southeast Queensland to see what's happened over the last few decades in terms of restoration and what the value and roll-on effect of that has been on the economy. And so there's a lot of these type of various projects happening. We'd like to tie them all together on one piece of land and incorporate a learning layer. Of course, the technology we have been developing is focused on nature, so comprehending what the impact on the current biological state and human intervention, as well as spreading a clearer message on how we can work with those type of environments to implement food forests and that sort of thing. But the long and the short, Dan, and I'm not sure if that's kind of gives a bit of a summary.
That's really great, mate. Yeah, perfect. Like, we'll come together, I think, for the right reasons, and I think it can be quite impactful. Yeah, if we can continue this conversation, get together, schedule whatever it is, a fortnight, or with some people, depending on their schedule. There's other people to come into this, like with Kent Langley from Asymmetrics, which is more around the farming and IoT. So, and there's a few other people that we can continue this conversation, have a core team that's working out where some people we've got to work out some potential conflicts and whether they're needed in a top hierarchy of this structure to actually build out these projects. But there's definitely something special happening here. So, Peter, did you have any more thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the permaculture really, really interests me in terms of large-scale development, and I think it's really relevant to go back to that, to those principles. In the early 90s, I did a project in India, which was a golf resort, and it was a highly sensitive area. So we did it according to permaculture, and so the actual earthwork were 400 ladies. And they moved, the actual labour moved all over. We didn't use machines. We actually engaged all the villages, and they came over. Of course, in India, being somewhat of a misogynist, patriarchal society, the men sat on the hills and watched the women work. And they just moved all the earth, like hundreds of thousands of meters of earth, from one side to the other. And then we collected all the rubbish from every village and made vermiculture. And so we created soil and we created fertilizer, etc. So then we imported bugs that ate all the bad bugs. It was a fascinating experience, and it's still going. It's still under construction. So that's how long. So I think that this is an interesting one when you're talking about engaging young people and people who are unemployed. Maybe we should be going backwards to more of a labour-intensive in these kind of permaculture where people actually have something to do.
Yeah,
I like that rather than the machinery.
It's a very good point, because one of the issues that we see in technology, people working in technology, they disconnect themselves from the obvious biology that's all around them, through to the environments they work in, and it's changing now with people being able to work in more productive environments. But it really does have an impact, I think. So yeah, it's really good to hear that you've been involved in these level of projects for so long, because what we really want to do is bring back the Indigenous knowledge. We're in talks with the local Bunjalongs here in this area of actually bringing some of the 18 to 20-year-olds in to match them with 18 to 20-year-olds Australians and so forth. That's well, more of an English or European or Asian background, and bring that knowledge together, to show that technology is fun, but you also need some human health and connection to the environment to make it sustainable. And having worked in IT for only 20 years, I know I've got another 20 years more to go behind the screen. There's a lot of things that we didn't know when we started working with computers that we know now, in terms of ergonomics and sustainable practices. But also being able to take a little bit of time out to really appreciate what's happening outside. So, and I think that's where the kids are coming into the mix. And the troubled youth component, we are looking at not just troubled youth, we're looking at disadvantaged youth in general, so disabilities, youth that's come from environments that haven't offered opportunities, and obviously over time work with government, local and federal, to get sponsorship for these programs. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and it's so good to hear that so many are actively working on making that sort of change.
The other part we're really enjoyed with Dennis and Anastasia, Peter, and I've spoken to you about in the past, Bob, with the creativity, with like using the senses in office or different environments. We've got different music in creative spaces, which is a big part of following on from what you just said. So Dennis has actually founded and run his own festivals in the past as well. I'm quite a music guy. We talked about the drumming, Peter, when we spoke music. So we're definitely seeing all these communities to, I mean, I'd love to have an understanding. Maybe the privacy is yet to be worked out, but my views is like in a private environment that it could sense my emotions with something like an AI, like Effectiva, is one that I've earmarked, where it understands my mood. It can play, you know, certain sound and colour healing in an environment, and attach that to music production and entertainment events as well, with all the flashing lights with IoT and just blending in with the mood of the song, with the colours. And you're on mute, Bob. You're on mute, Bob.
I said next year. It's on the product roadmap.
Fantastic. But I'd love for our precinct planning to have a lot of that creativity in music, because I think that ties in with all the nature and would be fun. That's where I want to live.
Well, it's a good segue. We have a partner in Sydney who's been working for the last 12 months or so on a human health application to deploy within corporations to see if they can increase the mental and physical health of workers that spend more time in those type of environments than not. So there's so much happening out there in that space already. There's so much movement. And I think I can see the clear connection points there. I mean, what you do with the GIS side of things there, Bob, is quite amazing. What we were looking at around the environmental accounting was to see what we can do remotely with remote sensoring, and to work out how much of that can be done remotely without deploying biological strike teams, which is costs a lot, as you know, and it's not very environmentally sustainable to do that if you can collect that data remotely. So yeah, there's a lot of symmetries there in between what you're doing and where I can see a lot of these products go together over time. Yeah.
So Peter, it would be great to catch up with you directly as well, mate, and see what sort of help you can. We're putting it together now, mate. I'm sure you've got some resources behind you, or could help somehow. So let's have a chat, mate.
Yeah.
Love to chat with you, definitely. Peter, also offline.
Yeah, sure. Look, I'll be happy to. I mean, and I see this is a really interesting group of people, and you know, we can do something fairly major, I think, somewhere in the world. I don't know about Australia. It's pretty difficult to do. The reason I left was it was so difficult to do anything, different from what everybody else does here, and you get a lot of trouble from the government, from bureaucracy, and I mean, it truly is a nanny state in a lot of ways. So one thing you can do in other countries is that you can go and talk to the government directly and tell them present what we're doing, and they'll love you. They love me because I just tell you there's no limits.
Yeah.
I mean, I know nothing in a lot of things, but I learn it quick, and thank God for Google, eh? But and that's true education now, is to be able to find the information, not actually know it, So
While you're on that, Pete, like I don't know how, I can't remember how much detail we went into, but Dennis and Anastasia come up to my house yesterday. We had a big planning session with the knowledge business model with revenue sharing masterminds, and I think with technology advancing, I'm involved with a tech company, and some of my epiphanies with tech advancing is the same thing: what's good for us, what's not, and being connected to still people. And I think, there's the Google, and there'll be AIs that come out that are teaching people as well. But I think this human interaction and togetherness will be, what people will come back to, even if that does advance. So, we're building a knowledge platform, and if we can build this content from today and continue building out with some of the other people and bring that into a simple, condensed way where, regardless of how they want to participate in something like this, they can play a role in change. Because, you are right, there's us, there's a few other people that can really help set up something really strong and impactful. So I look forward to piecing that together with your help.
My pleasure. But my theory about smart cities and smart is that it's actually a series of apps on your phone. It's not about that. It's about sustainability and food security and water security and home and having homes and families and food. Just everything about it. It's nothing to do with our quality of life is unaffected by the smart city. I believe it just makes more money and makes more efficiency, and it will save the world because of the climate change issues. But it doesn't make you happy.
It's a 360-degree approach. A true smart city is a 360-degree approach, and that's why we call that company Blue in the Blue IoT. It's about the blue economy. So it's everything, what does it take to make something, and what does it take to maintain it? What effect does it have on the people using it, and what effect does it have on the community and the greater planet? And it's a complete 360-degree view, and that's a smart city.
Yeah, I agree. That's good. So
I think, we'll have this content. I'll share the recording, and we'll schedule some dates. Like I said, if there's any questions, that if you can have a look at the APIS Core website. I mean, let's focus on the affordable housing. Their printing ability for roofs is a little bit of a way off, but they're working on that research and development now. So, if we can plug those figures in, I mean, I know some general costs. It's 180 grand to get one of their printers here in Australia. I don't know the timings on some of those things. It would be great to bring her into the mix and, help her generate some interest. And maybe you might be interested in her printers, Peter, with the printers that you said you wanted to buy.
How big are they? How much reach can they make? Do you know?
Can you put that down on one of your questions? I don't know. No,
very big.
They're fairly big.
You can get to various sizes. It's part of our feasibility about the cost of the machine. So that's kind of important to know, because we need to buy a few of them, and you set them up and you have to move them around, So
well, it triggered a really interesting thought. Some of the work we've been doing with the tiny house communities up in Sunshine Coast and the designs that they have for their trailers. To be able to, and as you know, Australia's a nanny state, but if you're smart enough, it's not really, because you can get around some of these zoning issues with tiny houses in a lot of areas. You can provide very affordable living. And if you look at the hand printing and come up with some standard designs, with some standard trailers, there are resources in Australia to put them together and provide some
You're breaking up.
Cost various. Oops, did I break up there? Yeah, might be that time of day. What I was saying, just quickly recap, was that we've been looking at a tiny house movement here for a while. We're in talks with a few up in Sunshine Coast, and the idea around sustainable housing using standard trailer sizes and hempcrete printing with some standard designs for 1, 2, 3 person kind of accommodation, and it would also circumvent a lot of the zoning issues that you find in some of the areas here in Australia. Did I go through?
That's great.
All right, well, we might, Dennis and Anastasia, as part of our, what we're putting together as a collective, we might set up a couple of different channels with our systems for the different key components of, you know, the smart and sustainable property. There'll be a few others, but that we'll set up as a core, like the operational part of unified purpose. And we've got some things to work out with, you know, where things are going to sit and be protected, and like what you said, Bob, things to be open and what have you. So there's a lot of that planning happening behind the scenes, but I think we can continue progressing with these conversations with the properties. And thank you so much, guys. I'm looking forward to having this impact and yeah, working with you all.
Thanks, Dan.
Lovely
Well
to
done.
meet you,
Thanks,
Peter
Dan.
and Bob. And
Nice to meet you all.
Brilliant. All right.
Beautiful.
Cheers. Have a great day.
Cheers.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.